Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, and welcome back to part 5 of What If Deku Was Horse Hands. Last we left off was Ravenclaw What If. Thank you, by the way, and congratulations on almost hitting 200 subscribers. You're about 4 to 6 subscribers away, so I want to give you a little shout out on your almost reaching 200, as well as doing part 4 for me. Thank you so much, and look forward to doing another one with you. So last we left off on Ravenclaw. What he said was the capture of Katsuki Bakugo being dragged through the forest by the hair into the base of the League of Villains. And I got a ship from this on part 3 in the comments, which is Toga and Deku, which I would say it's a good ship. So I definitely am gonna find a way to do that. So let's do this. We come back to Bakugo as he's waking up in the anti-quirk chair, or the quirk cancellation chair. He's waking up with Deku sitting across from him in a chair with his bloody axe sitting next to him. He's asleep, but he's covered in blood. Toga's sitting there just licking the blood off of him as he's still asleep. Monica is sitting at the bar with Shigaraki and a couple of the others, just sitting there talking, figuring out what they should do as the monitor comes on. Deku and Toga are still doing what they usually do, and Bakugo's being creeped out. The monitor comes on and says, congratulations that they passed their mission, as All For One would then ask, Monica, my sweet little daughter, how did your brother do on his mission? Monica would reply with, he did really well. As she would start tearing up and start crying, as she would reply with, I failed my mission, Daddy, I'm sorry, I couldn't get him. And she would start crying as Dobby, or Twice, would walk over, patting her on the back, saying, there, sweet one. You tried your best, don't worry. With his two sides kind of cheering her up. All For One would say it's fine, as long as we got the kid. He would then ask where Muscular went, as everyone would look at Deku and Toga, and Monica would say that Deku had a late night snack because Muscular went AWOL and tried killing someone that he wasn't supposed to. All For One would just say that, so he went against your orders there, Shigaraki. Understood. Good thing Deku took care of him. He was one powerhouse, with speed, as well as strength, and a little bit of skill and tactician on him. If Deku was able to beat him, then there's no one that can stand up against him. I bet you he tasted terrible. Good thing your brother was there to defend you, Monaco, whenever he first came here. Anyways, the villains are going to be planning an attack on us soon. Toga, hearing this, would shake and wake up Deku. Deku kind of slowly waking up to see Bakugo in front of him, as he would stand up, walk over to Bakugo with the axe blades dragging into the wooden floor, as he raises it to cut off Bakugo's head, as Toga grabs the axe and tosses it to the side and gives him a kiss on the cheek and says, we need him alive, Izu. We need him alive to convince him to join our group. Deku just says fine, as he, half asleep, walks over to the couch and falls asleep. Toga, taking the chair that he was sitting in and sitting at the bar, as she would softly skip over to him, laying on the couch with him, and just falling asleep. Them all kinda just talking with All For One, thinking of a plan to defeat the heroes when they attack. And not even an hour later, the heroes would attack. Deku waking up super fast as his eye goes a shining bloodshot red. Toga jumping up as well. the heroes, I think his name was Lockwood or something, would try to capture Deku in his branches, but Deku would use his bloody axe, his bones, and his blasters to get the branches away from him. But as he did that, the branches would grow back and would multiply over and over and over again. So Deku had enough as he went near Berserker mode, both of his eyes almost showing a bloodshot red. His right eye was a fainted bloodshot red, as his left eye was a glowing crimson red, a bright crimson red. As he lifts his hand into the air, grabbing all the heroes in their gravity manipulation, throwing them into the air as high as he can, telling everyone to get out of here. As he grabs onto the chair, or as he grabs onto Toga and his sister Monica, as well as Shigaraki, or as many villains as he can, then teleports out of there to the warehouse where they are at with the, where they are in Season 4. As the fight with All For One would go as canon. Deku being a little sad and angry that his dad just got beaten up nearly to death and is arrested. Actually, he's infuriated. He goes in his rampage state, as since they're surrounded by trees, Deku's just destroying every tree around him with his blasters, his axe, and his bones. Just destroying them. And all that everyone hears is just explosions and just trees falling over left and right. They're all crying and they're all scared to even go outside. And after about 5 hours, yes, 5 hours later, Deku calms down and walks inside, covered in sweat and leaves and grass as well as dirt. As he walks over to Toga and just falls asleep with his head on her lap, Monica walking over and leaning her head on the shoulder of Toga, falling asleep as well. Everyone needed to think of a plan on how to get All For One back, or how to advance on the league, and how to expand. As they were thinking on this, we're going to cut over to Bakugo. Bakugo is in the police station as he's interviewed. Some of the questions were, what did they do to him? Who was there? And did he know anyone personally? Bakugo said that they did nothing to him. Well, that he doesn't know of. He knew a few people there. 2 of them actually were his childhood friends. And he didn't know how to answer the other question, because I forgot it. So the cop would ask him who were the people that he knew, what are their names. Bakugo would give the explanation of the kid with the glowing eyes and the axe and the bones and the skull things, or whatever they were. His name's Izuku Midoriya. And the girl with the orangish blondish hair and the hardening, strengthening quirk was Monica Midoriya. They would look up this name, and it would come back to both of their pictures as well as their mother, and would explain all of their history. Monica being a child thrown into an experimental room to be killed off, but survived by the experiment. The mother had the same thing, only except she was on death row for an accident she didn't do, but survived and mothered the experiment, and the experiment himself. Essentially, a loose cannon, an unstable person, with the ability himself to destroy the world if he wanted to. But he couldn't. He just held himself back too much, which they didn't know why. No one knew, but his sister and his mother and his father. So, After the interview, they let him go, and we cut to All Might and Deku's father, All For One, as they're talking and All Might's interrogating him. He asks who the kid with the red eyes and the girl with the blondish orange hair were. All For One would just say that they're his kids. All Might would be surprised, and he would try to get names out of them. All For One would keep his mouth quiet, saying, "If you want these names, you're gonna have to kill me. I'm never giving the names of my kids up, ever." And All Might, being angry, would want to break the glass down, but he can't go into his buff state, so he can't. Because in this, Bakugo has one for all. And as Bakugo got home and the teachers and students all gathered up to talk, Nezu called in Aizawa and a couple other teachers, saying that they need to do a broadcast and do it live, apologizing, which they do. Then Nezu puts in his idea for the dorms. The dorms are all established, everyone agrees to it, same for their parents, and after about a month of the dorms being in place, 3 heroes in particular were spotted in an alleyway. Aizawa, Snipe, Cementos, Midnight, and Blood Vlad were sent out to capture them, which these villains were Toga, Monica, and Izuku Midoriya. They were captured and thrown into a cell in a specialized facility in UA. Nezu, All Might, Aizawa, and that's it. And a detective actually would go down to see the cell, to see who they're working with. They already had their information, but to see who they were and what they look like in their everyday to day activities. Deku's sleeping there. Toga and Monica talking. As when the intercom just starts up, not even a word comes out, Deku flares his eyes up and summons the blasters, blasting at the speakers. Hang on. After that happens, everyone in the speaker room was surprised that he did this on impulse. So they had their information confirmed. He was the experiment. He was experiment 40RR0R, also known as horror for short. And he was Project Horror. Monica and Toga would grab onto Deku, calming him down, as then Deku would just sit down on the couch and just stare blankly at the one-way glass, and the people on the other side feel like their souls are being just stared at and destroyed. They found another way to communicate, and they had a proposition, and this is the proposition. Alright, brats, we're gonna put you in our rehabilitation program. And this is your only way to get out of this cell room. And now you can do this, or you can sit down here until your prison sentence is over. What do you want to do? Monica and Toga look at Deku, then look at each other. Monica and Toga say they'll do it, but what's the terms? They said that they'll give him a bracelet that cancels out their quirks, and is also a tracker. And the only time you're allowed to use your quirks is in an emergency. They agree, and they look at Deku. Deku just sitting there, and he looks at his sister and Toga. He sighs and says, "Fine. I don't like this one bit, though. I feel like I'm being treated like a dog." Aizawa opens a little slot on the door, and he slips in the 3 bracelets. They all put him on, and then they open the door. All Might walks in with 3 files, and he says their name: Himiko Toga, age 16, quirk, copy, and then he says kill count 258. Toga says yes. Then she skips out of the room and stands in line on the wall. Then he says next is Monica Midoriya, age 15, quirk, harden enhance, kill count 357. She says yes as well, and then walks out and stands in line. Then he flips over to the next file, and it says name Izuku Midoriya, quirk unknown, age unknown, kill count. And his eyes widen in shock as he says 1,299. Everyone was shocked because not even his sister and Toga knew his kill count. And he says in a dark tone, "Yes, that's my information. What about it?" All Might says, "Oh, okay, Izuku. You can go stand in line next to your sister and Toga." He does so with an angry expression on his face because he feels like he's being treated like a dog, and he hates it. He hates it with a passion. His eye is still a crimson red, though. Just one eye, though, to show that he's just annoyed. Aizawa leads him to the dorms as some of the students are downstairs watching TV as they turn around and see 3 people with these black and white outfits walk in a single file line behind Aizawa. They ask who they are as Deku turns around. Bakugo, seeing who it is, and he says, "You! What are you doing here, Deku?" Deku's eyes both flaring, this time both of his eyes flaring a crimson red at Bakugo, and he says, "I'm here to eat you. What do you think?" As he gets a little shock from the bracelet, as his eyes both stop flaring and just turn to just white little dots in his eyes. And he just turns around and just looks forward, and Aizawa says they're part of the rehabilitation program. So they're going to be joining you in class. Your new assignment is to watch over him. Treat him nicely. Especially the boy. He's mentally unstable, and he can snap at any moment. And I'm pretty sure not even the bracelet will handle him. They say yes, Aizawa-sensei, as they head to their dorms. And they all 3, Toga, Monica, and Deku, stay in the same dorm on the top floor in the biggest room. And they think for a minute, how did we end up here? This is where I'm going to end it. Thank you guys so much for watching part 5 of What If Deku Was Horse Hands. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.